Have you ever thought of the idea of justice? It may come from a completely unexpected. It's almost like a special effect in a film. What if I told you that, at times, by the very nature decides to take on the role of the Punisher, in a way that was just so insane that it looks like a scene from a blockbuster but in real life? As it is, this is a story that I'm going to have to tell you. It's just like this, full of twists and turns, humor, absurdity, and a lesson that no one expected. Stay with me until the end, because of what happened in Phoenix. It will make you rethink everything you know about the justice, crime, and, above all, about the power of honey bees. This is a night to put down, the one with the heat that seems stuck in the skin, and the wind seems to carry a strange smell, a mixture of dust and dirt with a touch of honey. It is against this backdrop that we have it. An empty parking lot. It was only the distant sound of insects at night and the glare off the streetlights illuminating your life. At the end, the truck is loaded from a jar of honey, artisan resting quietly, and to the 39 hives huge, dominating the space, by keeping the bees, the most vicious in the world. The seemingly calm, hiding a silent threat, and a sense that something big was about to happen. Can you imagine what is going on in someone's head when they look for a scene like this? You may think that it is only an evening, but if you know the history, you know that what comes around goes beyond the ordinary. There is a feeling, an energy that is almost palpable, which is something that is about to spiral out of control as their wings, the bees were humming, that the time for action is coming soon. And there you have it. You've already been through this feeling that something is out of place, out of which the universe is conspiring in your favor, or against you. Because, at that time, those who were close by and he could feel that something big was about to happen, even without knowing exactly what it is. And this is where our story starts to get a little more interesting. You're going to discover how a simple act of hubris, of a wrong decision, you can turn on a night out, apparently common in the real epic battle between the human and the nature. And for the most insane, it all happened in just those seconds that he thought he had it all under control, not knowing that soon he would be at the center of the chaos, the golden arrow, and sticky. Now, in order to understand what is really behind all of this, you need to go to the next step. From here on, the story gets even more insane, and what you are going to see is going to surprise you the truth. Get ready, because the next thing that happens is more than just a lesson in life. It is a real lesson in how nature may, from time to time, to give you an answer that no one stays with you. As they delve deeper into this journey, I realize just how much of these experiences remind us of something vital. Our connection to the world around us is more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Every detail, every change in nature appears to whisper secrets to you that many times we hit. And that's just in the silence that we find the answers to the most profound ones, the ones that cause us to reflect on the things that matter. You may, if you look at this, we realize that life has its own rhythm, its own message, and that, often, what appears to be simple, or even a stranger on the first sight, save for a wisdom that only the one who has devoted attention can't understand it. If you feel some tightness in your chest, a sense of surprise, or even a bit of hope to know that this is completely normal. These are emotions that connect us to the present time. We are reminded that we are part of something much bigger, and that all of this complexity, it has a purpose. When we share this type of story, you're creating a bridge between our perceptions of the universe, a connection that strengthens our hope and by our sense of what is truly important to you. Because of this, I want to invite you to leave here in the comments on this story inspired you, your perceptions, your emotions, and any experience you have something that you have or are thinking about. And, if that kind of content that has touched your heart, please don't hesitate to click the like and to show them that those words would make sense in your life. Here, every comment and every support is helping to create a community in which the exchange of experiences, it becomes a source of strength and the learning process. And if you want to continue to explore your thoughts about it with me, and you take the chance to subscribe to the channel. So, we keep this conversation alive, and get ready for the next step in this journey, which promises to be even more revealing. Because, deep down, all of this is a search for understanding, for a true connection, and a sense that we are not alone on this journey. Right now, for us to continue to deepen this topic, there's something even more important what you need to understand. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the truth of it is that, too often, the greater the resistance that we are not out there, on the hurdles, circumstances, or even the people around you. It is within us, hidden under the layers of doubt, fear, and expectations that we have created over the years. It is as if, in the silence of the mind, a voice assures us that we don't have enough, that we can't, or that we don't dare to dream up way too high. And that voice, that often go unnoticed, but they are responsible for limiting our shares, you can create a kind of invisible wall that prevents us from moving forward in truth. The one that really locks it is this internal narrative that we have learned to believe in it as if it were an absolute truth. And so, we live in a kind of battle they are silent, because on the outside we may seem confident, determined, up to the same game. But on the inside, there is a conflict, at all times, the desire to evolve, to change, to gain something more in depth, and in a voice that insists that this is not possible, it is not for everyone. This duality is what makes the journey of self-discovery to seem as a challenging one, because it is, at the same time, they want to move forward, carry that weight, the invisible one question that seems to be deeply rooted in our lives. You may have noticed that doubt, that fear does not go away simply because we want to, or by virtue of a will. It must be understood, embraced, and, above all, to be transformed. Because, deep down, that resistance is like a bridge that connects what we were to what we can become. Every decision we make, every choice we make is a step on that bridge. And, along the way, we began to realize that it is not an obstacle, but an opportunity to get to know each other better, and to understand where our limitations truly are and, more importantly, why they are there. The key is to recognize that, in these voices, these fears, these are only the stories that we have learned to believe. And the stories can be modified, rewritten, replaced by a new alignment with who you truly are. This is a change for him. It's like a release, silent, for a renewal of the hope that comes when we take the first step to listen to our inner selves, without a trial, without a hurry. That's when the real transformation begins. It's because they stop being held hostage by our own limitations, and we have to be the authors of our story. The most fascinating thing is that, by doing this, we can begin to understand the forces that seek to go out there, many times, only to the extent that we were able to get it inside of you. It's like a source that was always there, hidden by the layers of fear and insecurity, waiting for the moment to be discovered. And it's a journey that requires courage, but also with a dose of kindness to those who are in the present tense. Because when we accept our imperfections, our doubts, and our vulnerabilities, we've stepped out of the cycle of resistance and open up the space to the whole of evolution, in that it comes from within and is not dependent on external circumstances, but in our provision for us to reconnect with our essence is pure. And then, when that is understood, we realize that it is the greatest power we have is the one you are born with a heart to feel, that allows you to ask questions and, above all, allows you to change it. Because, deep down, that it is the very essence of life itself, and ever-changing, and the opportunity for self-esteem each and every day, even when the evidence seems to point to the contrary. And this knowledge is what gives us the strength to carry on, even in the face of these questions more deeply, because they have learned that they are not the end, but the beginning of a new journey, in a version that is closer to the truth than we do ourselves. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because there is the fact that too often we avoid confronting our greatest strength is not in the outside world, but in our ability to free ourselves from the chains unseen, which we have created in all of us. And this release will only happen when you decided to actually look into the inside, with a spirit of courage and compassion. When we do so, we woke up to a reality in which all of the things that we think could be a limitation, it is, in fact, an opportunity for growth, a chance for us to reconnect with what really matters to you. And, at this point, we can begin to understand that true power is not in control of it all around us, but the master of our own mind, our emotions, and our stories inside. Because, in doing so, we are changing the resistance in the facility, and the fear, courage, and the quiet of a doubt, in a voice of trust and confidence that pushes us to go forward with purpose and clarity. Leave in the comments, I came to realize the truth. And as this realization sets in within us, we begin to realize that all the things that once appeared to be in a constant battle going on in our mind, in fact, it's a chance to rebuild. Every thought, every feeling that comes up, it's like a piece of a puzzle that, if well fitted, revealing a clearer picture of who we really are. It is as if, behind all the confusion, there was a quiet strength that was always there, waiting for the right time to be awake. And it is at the core of the part of us that we never get lost, even in the most violent of storms. When we have learned to listen to that inner voice, to know that he is our everything that has been imposed on our journey in that direction, suddenly, you stop being the hostage of fear, and we are the authors of our own story. Every decision we make, no matter how simple it may seem to you, it becomes a manifestation of this consciousness, this new connection to that which is real within ourselves. It's like a wake-up is smooth, which is gaining strength, and that he invites us to look into the mirror and see beyond the masks that we wear so long a time. And, in the process, we become more aware of what's really important, our emotions, our limits, our dreams, the more hidden ones. Because you are, in essence, all the things that we are looking out for us, it is an attempt to fill a void that can only be filled when we reconnect with our truth. And the truth is not something that is far away or unattainable. She is right here, right now, in the simplicity of the breath, the courage to face up to what you feel, and the authenticity of being who you really are. But to do that, you have to have the courage to look within and without the fear that it may arise. And do not try to run away from the answers. It often seems difficult to accept. It is a constant invitation to discover what lies in the deepest layers of our being, in order to understand that change begins in our minds and in our willingness to see beyond the illusions that we create. Because, deep down, the whole process is a journey of self-discovery, an adventure that leads us back to discover who we are stronger than you know, more capable than we thought, and that the true power lies in our ability to make our own story. And, in doing so, we realize that the universe conspires to help those who have the courage to look inside and to take control of their own narrative. It's the feeling of freedom that you don't buy, and that it is not in anything external to it, but that comes from an internal decision, a commitment to our growth and our development. And in this journey, every step you take, no matter how small, is a step forward towards what we truly are, being able to create, transform, and live with purpose. Because, at the end of the day, all of this is a search for ourselves, the one part that has always been there, quietly, waiting for the moment to rise again. And when you figure it out, we realize that the greatest power we have is the one that comes from inside. It is powered by the courage to be authentic, and to follow the path that you really belong to us. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Because, at the end of the day, all of this is a search for ourselves, the one part that has always been there, quietly, waiting for the moment to rise again. And when you figure it out, we realize that the greatest power we have is the one that comes from inside. It is powered by the courage to be authentic, and to follow the path that you really belong to us. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because, many a times, we get so attached to the masks we wear to fit into the expectations that have been imposed upon them, that we forget what true freedom is born, when we were able to disconnect from these layers to the surface, and immerse themselves in the essence of who we are. In fact, it is as if, for many years, we were living in a one stage, playing the role of a piece of paper that seemed to be comfortable with, but which, in essence, did not live up to one's soul. And then, all of a sudden, you realize that the greatest courage is to take off that mask, even if it means confronting fears, insecurities, and doubts. They seem to be so deeply rooted, almost as many as the roots that sustain us under the illusion that what is outside is always more important than the one that beats in all of us. And in that moment, everything changed. Because when you give up all the things that the us was limited, we can begin to see life with a clarity that seemed to be impossible. Every decision, every step you take, then becomes an expression of the truth, and not an attempt to please or to fit into a mold that was never meant for us. It is a journey of self-discovery that takes courage, yes, but it is also an enormous compassion for yourself, because you get to know who we are, in fact, is not a linear process, with full certainty. It's a delicate dance between what is and what must be left behind. In between, the us is limited, and that frees us from that fact. And when you walk by in this way, we have realized that all the things that seem so very far away, so unattainable, that is, in fact, it's within us, just waiting for us to have the courage to look within, and you have to accept that we are full, also in a state of constant transformation. Because, deep down, this is the most important discovery, that the force with which we look out there, it was always here inside my heart, beating, buzzing, reminding us that we are made up of a spirit, which it never leaves us, even in the most difficult moments. And, as we connect to the essence, all that changes. The fear is that once appeared to be so large, it decreases in size, and it turns out to be a shadow fleeting, disappearing when the light of our authenticity, it starts to really shine. It's at that moment that we realize that our mission is just that, a rescue that part of ourselves that has always been hidden away. It has always been our true home, our essence is pure. And, in so doing, we can begin to understand the power of change, of growth, and the realization of it is not something external, but in the courage, to us to look forward, to embrace our vulnerability and our own imperfections, and even then, move forward with confidence that we are on the right track. Because, at the bottom of this journey, it is a matter of courage, and of love, and of faith in our own history. And, as we unveil these secrets you have always been there, hidden beneath layers of fear and the doubt, you realize that freedom is a state of mind, a decision every day to honor who you are, no matter what the world says or expects of us. And, in the process, they discover a stronger, more aware, more in line with our core like never before. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is something that a lot of people still don't understand this. that the quest for authenticity is, in fact, it is a silent revolution that is happening from within each one of us. It's a wake-up call that causes a change in not only our lives, but in the way we see the world, how we relate to it, and, above all, how we see ourselves. It is a journey of self-transformation, which requires patience, resilience, and the delivery of a product's true what they feel without the fear of being judged or misunderstood. Because, in the end, all that really matters is our truth, and that which is born of the heart, and which, when listened to, it has the power to transform everything around us. And then, over the course of the journey, we take steps each and every time more firmly in the direction of living a life more aligned with, the more you complete, the more our own. And this is where it all starts to make sense, because we believe that the more freedom that is the one we reach out to let go of all the things that we hold to set us free from that which is stopping us from being who we really are. And in that moment, we realize that our time in history, no matter how challenging that might be, it is a story of courage, hope, and self-esteem. Because, deep down, all of the things that we seek has always been within us, just waiting for a chance to flourish. And then, when you open up that space to allow our lives to come to the surface, we find that we are exactly what you were looking for, with the whole world, whole, and able to transform the world around you with the power of our authenticity, our truth, and the courage to be who you are, in fact. And, as long as this understanding grows deeper, we realize that all the things that we live with, all the pain, all the joy, all the doubts, and the achievements are all part of a process of evolution that takes us to a place of inner peace, of a deep connection with our inner selves more fully. And this is the state of harmony that we find the inspiration to continue on, to keep it in front of you, knowing that every step is a statement of who you really are. Because, in the end, that's the big lesson, that the power for change lies in our ability to reconnect with that part of us that has never ceased to exist, and that's always been there, quietly, waiting for the moment to show you the light. And, in doing so, everything around you begins to reflect the light. This is the truth, that freedom that comes from the inside out. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Because, in the end, that's the big lesson, that the power for change lies in our ability to reconnect with that part of us that has never ceased to exist, and that's always been there, quietly, waiting for the moment to show you the light. And, in doing so, everything around you begins to reflect the light. This is the truth, that freedom that comes from the inside out. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, for it is precisely at this point that a lot of people are imprisoned, forgotten, on the surface of one's own emotions, their own beliefs. And that's where the people you need to understand that this is a journey of self-discovery that is not a path to the discovery of the outside, but it is a immersion to the homeland, a renewal of that essence, which, for some reason, it has been concealed or put down for years to come. And this happens for a very simple reason. The fear of being seen. We find ourselves faced with our own shadows, to accept that the truth is not in that which hath been taught, or what we believe, what we should live by. It is as if we have been programmed to hide from our authenticity, for the sake of protection, but, in fact, it has become a prison or invisible, one of the strongest species that only exists in one's mind. When you start to realize that the cage is made of thoughts, both of the stories that we tell ourselves to justify it, it all begins to make sense. Because you are, in fact, it is we who have created these bounds and, at the same time, we are also the only ones capable of destroying them. And the key to that destruction is the act of looking at you with compassion, understanding that fear, that doubt, that the pain that he appears, are part of a process of economic growth. These are all signs that we are moving forward. We are freeing us from the shackles that have been imposed upon them by a society that, because of past experiences, so expectations are that you will never have our own truth. And then we realize that our greatest strength lies in vulnerability, and the courage to show it without face masks, stripped of their masks of power, perfection, and control. Because of the authenticity and exists only when we give ourselves to you that we are without the fear of being judged or rejected. And in that surrender, in fact, it is an act of self-love and respect to our journey. This is to acknowledge that the truth is the only one that doesn't need to be validated by anybody, because it is no longer valid for you only. And then, when you do this, something magical happens. The universe seems to conspire in our favor, as the opportunities arise in a natural way, and the people around us begin to reflect the light of what we are putting out. It's as if it's a vibration, anew, more fully, more in tune with who we really are, and to be spreading slowly, creating a chain of internal changes that will reverberate in our external reality. And in that moment, you realize that all this fighting, all this pain, all this confusion, it was necessary to bring us here, so that we can see in this hidden strength that has always been inside of us, waiting for the right moment to bloom. And then, when you make the connection more deeply, we realize that the biggest secret is not in the achievement of something that is external, but in our ability to accept ourselves fully, to embrace every part of ourselves with love and patience. Because, deep down, we are in this is the sum of the experiences, the emotions, the dreams that you still have not come, from fear that you will still need to be addressed. And then, when you look at the inside, with honesty and kindness, we see that freedom has never been something that we need to take a look outside. It's something that has always been available, tucked away in the core of the most pure. And then it all starts to make sense. The life, it is not a war against the us is limited. It is also an opportunity to rediscover who we really are to the rescue in the light of more accurate and, therefore, to illuminate the way for not only us, but also to those who cross our way. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, because it is at this level of understanding, it changes everything for the truth. When you realize that the real transformation happens in our ability to break free from that which no longer serves us, to release the past, release the beliefs that hold us, we can begin to understand that this release is a daily choice, a decision on who we wish to be every moment. And in this choice, it is a liability which, at the same time, it's a gift, because it puts us in control of our own story. We are no longer victims of our circumstances, or the prisoners of our own limitations. We are the creators, are aware of our own destiny, and are well aware of that comes from the recognition that all that we need in order to be a happy, full, free, it is already inside us. It's just that, many times, the truth is it is so subtle, so quiet that it goes unnoticed if you don't pay attention to it. It's like a seed that, when planted in the fertile soil of self-awareness, it begins to grow slowly, increasing in the silence, until its power is so powerful in our lives. And this is where the true power is revealed, in the realization that our very essence, the one who's always been there, and it is our most important ally. And, as we are reconnecting with it, we are able to see beyond the surface, to understand that the external world is only a reflection of our own inner transformation. Everything seemed to be difficult, impossible even, then it is possible because, in fact, the biggest change is going on inside of us, in the way we look, feel, and act. And, if you do this, life is no longer a constant struggle, and if it turns into a dance, the smooth is a reflection of who we really are, with all the beauty, the fragility, and strength. And in that moment, we realize that the true up is an act of courage, surrender, unconditional love for yourself, because only in that way we were able to gain access to this power, which had never ceased to exist, but which, for some reason, it was hidden in the shadows of our own sin. He comments that I came to realize the truth. And then, to the extent that Mogilavamos deeper into this understanding, we start to see that the alarm was not something that happened all of a sudden, like a light that comes on with no warning. It was a journey of the silent, often invisible to the outside world, but of the intense and transformative within each and every one of us. It was as if, over the years, we had been walking with your eyes closed, and all of a sudden, the courage to open our eyes and really see our true essence, to become the greatest revolution that can. That courage was not the absence of fear, but rather a decision to face it, accept it, and even then, you follow along, knowing that the road to the truth, it requires that an act of faith in your own inner strength. And it is this strength that has always been there, hidden beneath the layers of the doubts, insecurities, and limiting beliefs. I will reveal the extent to which the us decided to break free from the shackles that bound them to the past and the expectations of the external, or for our own lies. In this process, and we got along, it was a delivery, a kind of surrender to the us impedia to be authentic. It was like diving deep into our own souls, where, so we discovered that freedom came out of a recognition of who we really are, in addition to the masks, and one of the labels that you have acquired throughout your life. And when you do that, feel a sense of peace began to sprout again, and slowly, like a flower which blooms after a long night in the winter. At this time, we find that the unconditional love for yourself, it was not a conquest of the surface, but with a built-in, and a decision on the daily, if you accept it, the look of compassion, and allow yourself to be vulnerable. Therefore, the vulnerability, we have the strength, pure, and true, the one that connects us to the universe, as a whole, making it possible for us to understand that all of what we are looking for is already inside of us. And then, somehow, almost magically, the perception of which we are a part of something bigger than themselves, a network of invisible energy, and the possibilities, it was starting to make sense, in a way that we have never experienced before. Every obstacle, every pain, every doubt, it was an opportunity for growth, learning, and connecting it with such a force that had always been there, quietly, waiting for the moment to be reckoned with. It was as if a layer of fog, Musashi slowly, revealing a world of possibilities in what seemed to be hidden away, locked away. This finding, This is an awakening. It was a light that lit up the path, not with the brightness of the obvious, but in a light, soft, inviting reflection, silence, and listening for the interior. From then on, we began to understand that this is a force that sought out validation from others, or in the validation of the goods, materials, and always has been inside of us, just waiting for us to do the very act of courage to find it again. And, no matter how much this journey would seem lonely at times, and it has never really been single, every step we take is a reflection of a connection of a network is invisible to the souls who are awakening are also looking for this same concept. It is as if we were in a dance, to be silent, where the rate is only noticed when we come to hear our own breath, our heart, and our deep emotions. And to understand this, we understand that true power is not in the control of the external world, but to master our own minds, our emotions, our beliefs, etc. At this point, we can begin to understand what the awakening is: a journey of self-discovery, but also one of love and compassion for yourself, because only in that way we were able to gain access to this power, which had never ceased to exist, but which, for some reason, it was hidden in the shadows of our own sin. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. This is power. It is often seen as something that is far away or unattainable. In fact, it is an intrinsic part of who we are. It's like a river. It was always there, quiet, waiting for the time to be displayed. And when you allow that power to flow freely, desbloqueamos a potential that has never been limited to only sleep with our own questions. This is the wake-up call that leads us to realize that our whole life was some kind of preparation, is a series of steps that, if we look carefully, we brought him in exactly the way up here, to this moment of revelation. And in that moment, everything seemed to be difficult, impossible. Even then, it starts to make sense, because we understand what we are: these keepers of the truth that has always been inside of us, waiting for the right moment to be released. And this is where the magic happens, when you realize that it's the biggest secret has always been our connection to that inner power and strength. It is not something that is foreign, it is not an achievement, that is if you achieve it with an effort, or an effort to be exhaustive, but to reconnect with the things that we've always been, prior to being shaped by the circumstances, the fear, and the limitations that we have created along the way. And then, when you do this, you reconnect. We are lighter, more authentic, more and more able to live with purpose and courage, because we believe that the true-up is not a one-off event, but a continuous, steady in who you are. And in this journey, every time a new discovery is the one piece of this puzzle that reveals our very essence, the purest, the one that never ceased to exist. It just got hidden under the layers of insecurities and limitations. It's as if, when, finally, we look at ourselves with honesty, we could find a light that had always been there, just waiting for the right time for you to shine brightly. And all of a sudden, everything seemed to be so far away, so unreachable, it becomes a tangible reality, a truth that beats in our chest, with the force, inviting him to go further, to explore this connection in depth. We found that the greatest power we have is the one that comes from within, and that it is not dependent on external circumstances, but what arises when we come to know one another as a whole, will be able to transform your own life. And so, we take the next step in this journey. You are aware that your awakening is an action of love, courage, and a standing invitation to delve inside and find out what is the universe in which we look out there. It is, in fact, is an extension of our very being. And, on this understanding, comes a new outlook, a renewed hope that anything is possible when you connect to them with such a force, to be silent, that he was always at our fingertips, just waiting that we can have the courage to look her in the face. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. And, in doing so, I believe that is the true secret to this to wake up to is in the simple recognize that all that we are looking out for is a projection of what has already taken up his dwelling inside of us. This is the strength that you have been searching for, that so much we want to win. That is, in fact, it is a power that had always been there, and subtle, and I was waiting for the moment to be reckoned with. And to be free from the bondage of the ego, and the expectations of others, and limiting beliefs, we make room for that power to be manifested in full. It's like opening a window. There's a lot of time was closed, allowing the air is pure, the light and the energy of groundbreaking and entering it all. And in that moment, everything changed. Because we understand that our development is not dependent on external factors, but internal traffic of a decision to look to the sincerity, love, and respect. This is a decision that transforms all things, because it is the very first step to a life that is more authentic, more in tune with our true self. And when you realize this, we can begin to understand that it is the wake-up is not an arrival, but it is a continuous journey of discovery, from the rediscovered and with the core of the most pure, the one that never ceased to exist, just waited for the right moment to emerge from within you. And in that moment, everything seemed to be so far away, so difficult to understand, he begins to fit in with the idea that once seemed impossible. The truth is that, before it was hidden behind layers of fear, the doubts, and the expectations of others, he starts to be so gentle, like a breeze that caresses the soul, and awakens a sense of belonging, and that we are not able to explain it, just feeling it. It's as if, suddenly, it all made sense, in its deepest core, and you are able to see beyond what our physical eyes can pick up. At that point, we realize that the path isn't a straight line, or on a trajectory for the foreseeable, but it is a complex web of choices, emotions, and life lessons that are woven together to form a routine of its own, which only we can understand. And that understanding brings about a freedom that is renewed. It is because we understand that there is no longer any need to seek validation from outside, to fit into the molds that have been created by someone else. That's not who we are. The authenticity comes across as a light that illuminates the inside, while at the same time, it shows areas that are dark, that you still insist to hold on to the past, the worries, the expectations that we have created or that have been imposed upon. It is a call to silence, to look inward, to listen to what you really want without fear of being judged, without being afraid to be different. The courage to recognize it, to accept it in its entirety, it is the basis of everything. Because when we allow ourselves to that sincerity, and open up the space for transformation to happen naturally, without forcing anything, just allowing him to show you what to do next. And this is the next step. It is often more comfortable than you imagine. It is not a radical change, which comes in an hour or so to the other one, but a combination of little decisions, and moments of reflection, and an array of genuinely listening to our own voice. These actions, however small they seem, they do have the power to change the course of everything. It is these that lead us to a deeper understanding of who you are and what you really want. And, as we move forward in the process, we realize that the biggest threat to our evolution, it is precisely because of the strength of the new, the unknown, to challenge our comfort zone. But, at the same time, that it is the fuel that makes us think, and that forces us to ask, and that is, in the end, lead to a state of clarity. It's as if, when you open your eyes to this new reality, and we start to see the opportunities in which they could only see the obstacles. We understand that each and every challenge that carries a message, a lesson, that will help us to strengthen our core. And, at the same time, we have realized that all the things that we are looking out for us, the answer to peace, and the direction it is in, just waiting for us to be allowed to meet him. This board was, in fact, it is a journey where you can meet up with the one that's always been our right, our truth, our light, our essence is pure and true. And, even in the face of these difficulties, in this connection, it gives us strength, hope, and a certain quiet. We are on the right path, the one that brings us back to our most dedicated one. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because it is, at the same time, this understanding makes us free. It also shows that there is a layer much deeper than this to be explored. It reveals that, most of the time, our greatest limitations are the ground just in your own mind, and in the stories that we tell about ourselves and the beliefs we have in life. These beliefs often act as the invisible walls that prevent us from moving forward, to believe in our own power, and to look beyond what seems possible. And when you realize this, we realize that the true power lies in our ability to wonder, to break down these stories and create a new narrative, one that is more in alignment with who you truly are. It is a process of liberation. It is about having the courage, yes, but it's also a kindness to a huge us, because they know that we are in a constant state of evolution is in itself a huge achievement. Each and every choice we make, every thought that we have cultivated, it becomes a seed, which germinates within us and shape our world, which is built in. And when you understand it, you start to realize that change is not something that happens from the outside to the inside, but it is a transformation that comes from the inside out. A change in mindset, attitudes, perceptions. And this, by the lowest, which is to say, you have the power to have an effect on every aspect of your life. It's like a tidal wave, which, at the touch of the sand on the beach, then turns on each grain, each and every detail, to reveal a new landscape, a new form of life. So, the more that we go on that journey of self-awareness, the more we realize that we've been building a bridge strong as to who we were, who we are, and who we can become. And the bridge is made up of choices, from small actions every day that, when added together, they create a new reality, a new version of ourselves. And, in the process, we learn what true strength is not the absence of fear or doubt, but in the courage to follow the same as well, to move forward, trust in one's own heart. Because, deep down, all of the things that we look for peace, clarity, and fulfillment, already taken up his dwelling inside of us, waiting for the time to be aroused, to be manifested in its fullest. And, every day, every decision is an opportunity to reinforce this connection, to strengthen that the light has never ceased to exist, only a sleeping beauty for a long time. And to understand this, we can begin to understand that it is the wake-up is a constant, the dance of the eternal, between who we are, and what we do. One day, while challenging, is the experience all the more beautiful you can be with the discovery of one's own unlimited. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because it is, at the same time, this understanding makes us free, it also shows that there is a layer much deeper than this to be explored. It reveals that, most of the time, our greatest limitations are the ground just in your own mind, and in the stories that we tell about ourselves and the beliefs we have in life. These beliefs often act as the invisible walls that prevent us from moving forward, to believe in our own power, and to look beyond what seems possible. And when you realize this, we realize that the true power lies in our ability to wonder, to break down these stories and create a new narrative, one that is more in tune with who you really are. It is a process of liberation. It is about having the courage, yes, but it's also a kindness to a huge us, because they know that we are in a constant state of evolution is in itself a huge achievement. Each and every choice we make, every thought that we have cultivated, it becomes a seed, which germinates within us and shape our world, which is built in. And when you understand it, you start to realize that change is not something that happens from the outside to the inside, but it is a transformation that comes from the inside out. A change in mindset, attitudes, perceptions. And this, by the lowest, which is to say, you have the power to have an effect on every aspect of your life. It's like a tidal wave, which, at the touch of the sand on the beach, then turns on each grain, each and every detail, to reveal a new landscape, a new form of life. So, the more that we go on that journey of self-awareness, the more we realize that we've been building a bridge strong as to who we were, who we are, and who we can become. And the bridge is made up of choices, from small actions every day that, when added together, they create a new reality, a new version of ourselves. And, in the process, we learn what true strength is not the absence of fear or doubt, but in the courage to follow the same as well, to move forward, trust in one's own heart. Because, deep down, all of the things that we look for peace, clarity, and fulfillment, already taken up is dwelling inside of us, waiting for the time to be aroused, to be manifested in its fullest. And, every day, every decision is an opportunity to reinforce this connection, to strengthen that the light has never ceased to exist, only a sleeping beauty for a long time. And to understand this, we can begin to understand that it is the wake-up is a constant, the dance of the eternal, between who we are, and what we do. One day, while challenging, is the experience all the more beautiful you can be with the discovery of one's own unlimited. And, as long as this understanding settles in you, you realize that the real challenge is not out there, in the circumstances, or in the people around her, but in her own ability to trust in the process of a silent transformation. Because, a lot of times, the greater the resistance comes from a fear of letting go of what no longer serves you, from the attachment to the old stories that we carry on as if it were the last of our roots. But, in truth, these stories are just the ghosts that we've created to protect us from something that, at the bottom, it is not always possible to identify the right in our very essence, which is pressed again, waiting for the moment to reveal itself in full force. And it is this essence, this is actually vital that you carry. It's like a fire that never shall be quenched, even on the days of blur, in the most difficult times to accept that they have to be left behind. That's what the beauty of this journey in the delicate art of learning to listen to that inner voice, that calls for an evolution, and that's not always comfortable, but that is, of course, it is necessary to. Because, deep down, all of the things that we are looking out for us, it is an attempt to fill a void that can only be completed with the recognition of who we truly are. And in that discovery, this is a return to our core, it's an adventure that takes courage, because we have come up with our own vulnerability, our deepest doubts, with all our limitations, which seem to be insurmountable. But it also reveals to us the power that will never cease to have the power that comes when we choose to look on the inside, with honesty and compassion. And it is this force that begins to transform our perceptions, which dissolves the barriers of the ego and connect with ancient wisdom, solitude, and the powerful, who have always been there, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Because you are, in essence, we are all sailors in a sea of endless options and possibilities, where each wave brings a new layer of understanding to a whole new dimension of self-love and acceptance. And then, when you dive deeper in the immensity of it, we realize that true freedom is the ability to be a full, even with our faults, to embrace our shadows and lights, with the same care, the same respect for you. It is this authenticity that is to find a just and lasting peace, one that is not dependent on external conditions, but it is born out of a recognition of the depth of all that we are is good enough. And when you do that, you start to realize that the universe conspires to please you each and every step taken in faith and courage. It is a very important part in the construction of a life more aligned with our higher purpose. Because, in the end, it all comes down to this intimate connection with the truth of our essence is pure, that is to guide us gently through the paths of self-discovery and transformation. And the more we give ourselves to this process, the more you realize that in life, colors and, of course, is the opportunity to constantly evolve, to reinvent ourselves, to discover who we are, far more than previously imagined it to be. For this discovery, the journey inside, and that there is no end, this is the one that gives meaning to all of it, because it teaches us that true power lies in our ability to self-renewal, and of reconnecting with that aspect of ourselves that we never stop to shine, even when things look dark. And, so, we went with an open heart, knowing that every day is a chance to rewrite our history, and in turn our pain into learning experiences, and our doubts into certainties, and quiet. Because, deep down, that's the real magic to realize that we are all the protagonists of the story that is written at any one time, our courage, our hope, and our faith in the infinite that dwell in all of us. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. And, in doing so, I realize that the quest for self-knowledge, it is also a journey of love, acceptance, unconditional, and with who we really are. Because, when you look at with love, we can begin to understand that it is our flaws are minor details that have enriched our history, and our vulnerabilities are the strong points that we can connect with, the humanity that we all share. And, in this connection, in this more in-depth understanding, it's what drives us to carry on with a more lighter, more hopeful. When you look at the inside, we've found that all the struggle, all the pain, all the questions, in fact, are the essential ingredients in this recipe, transforming, and takes us to meet a more genuine, more fully, more in tune with our soul purpose. And in that moment, we realize that the greatest gift we can give to ourselves, this is just an invitation to authenticity and vulnerability that makes us human, and, at the same time, the divine. Because, as we yield ourselves to the truth, we've stepped out of your current external expectations, and set ourselves free to live more fully, more self-aware, more connected to what really matters to you. And so, each and every step is taken in this way, it reveals a new layer of light. It's a whole new dimension of what it is to be true to yourself. It's like opening a window to the universe inside you that has always been there, hidden beneath the layers of doubt, fear, and limitations. Just waiting for us to decide is to look at it with the eyes of compassion and love. And, in doing so, we note that the biggest secret of your life, it is precisely in the simplicity of being who you truly are, without masks, without any reservations. Because, in the end, it's all the things that we are looking out for us. It is an attempt to fill the seat for the authenticity, which beats the strong heart of each one, and want to be recognized, accepted, and celebrated. And when you understand it, you start to realize that there is no more room for hiding places, to lie, or an illusion. There is an opportunity for the constant of reconnecting with our essence is pure, and with that spark of the divine that never failed to light up the way, even in the darkest times. And that reconnect ion is, in fact, it is the greatest act of love that we practice, because it allows us to live with more meaning, more purpose, more joy. So, when you think about all of this, it is clear that true freedom begins with the courage to be ourselves, for us to accept our own faults, to embrace our shadows, and our lights with the same kind of love. Because, well, we will find true peace, one that is not a trend, but it is born from within, out of a recognition of the depth of who we are, in fact. And then, when you see this, we note that we are finally on the road to a life more in tune, more honest, more of us. And to this day, it never ends, and it is also a tribute to our very essence, is a celebration of the everyday, of all the things that we are, and who we can be when we allow that inner light to shine forth with no fear, no limits, no conditions. Because, deep down, that it is the greatest gift that we can receive the freedom to be whole, authentic, and eternally connected to the infinite that resides in all of us. And as long as the light inside begins to think more aggressively, it should be clear that all of what we have, all of the decisions, the sorrows, the joys, and the findings are part of a larger tapestry that we have been named from time to time. Each and every thread, every stitch, every nuance, it shows that you're not here by accident, which to this day is a complex dance between what we are and who we can become. And, in the process, we have learned that the true transformation occurs only on the outside, but, above all, from the inside out. It is as if, to dive into the depths of our being and see that all the answers that we have always been there, hidden beneath layers of fear, doubts, and limitations that have been imposed at an early age. But, at the same time, we realize that these things, in fact, serve as a mirror that reflects the things that still need to be healed, understood, accepted. It is a call to silence, to embrace our vulnerability, because, in its essence, it is the gateway to our higher power, so that the part of us that is pure, that is true, and He continues to shine through, even when it seemed as if everything was in the dark. And it is this deep connection to the core of who will lead you to a deeper understanding of the impact our choices have on our lives, but also in the world around us. Because, as we align with our truth, we woke up to a force that is brimming over, and that He has been, I said yes. And even though sometimes the path seems unclear, or the shadow of a doubt, to try to pull us back into the silence of the room, there's still a voice inside that reminds us of the power we have to rewrite our history. Each thought, each feeling, each and every step of courage is a declaration of freedom. It is a reassurance that we are the authors of our own destiny, the architect of your own universe. And, at this point, it is evident that there is no separation between who we are and what we can become. We are an extension of the eternal, of a greater power, with a spark of the divine that is constantly seeking acknowledgement and expand. This is why, when we hear that link, everything takes on a new meaning. The seeds of hope and renewal begins to grow within you, bringing forth a sense of purpose that seemed to be far away or out of reach. It's as if, when you look at the inside, we find a map that will guide us through the paths of the authentic ones. The ones that lead us to true freedom is to be who we really are, without the mask, without the mask, without the mask. Every decision we make, every word we speak, goes on to reflect on the essence of pure, this radiance that never ceased to exist, even though many of the times, it has been swept up by the storm outside or the inside. And, in the process, we have learned that the greatest gift we can give ourselves is just the courage to show it to the world with authenticity, and to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to accept that it is a journey of self-discovery is a continuous, such that each step brings us closer to our true nature. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. It is at this point that we begin to understand that our strength lies in our ability to reinvent ourselves, to free ourselves from the shackles of the past and embrace our inner selves more fully, that you cannot be limited by trials, by fear, or by the opinions of others. The transformation happens when we learn to listen to that inner voice, which is often silent, but they have the power to lead us to a path of peace and fulfillment needs. And, in doing so, we realize that the universe conspires in favor of people who connect with her truth, and that the doors are open to anyone who dares to look into the courage and love. It's as if, when we align with, this is greater strength, you start to understand that we are part of something much larger than one's own limitations, perceived in an infinite energy that sustains all of us, guiding us and reminding us that we are made up of light and shadow, of imperfection and perfection, doubt and certainty. And, when you accept that there is a duality, we have the freedom of being full, with no need to deny any part of ourselves, without the need to hide our vulnerabilities, our full potential. This is a journey of self-discovery is, in effect, a tribute to our very essence, is a celebration of the everyday, of all the things that we are, and who we can be when we allow that inner light to shine forth with no fear, no limits, no conditions. Because, deep down, that it is the greatest gift that we can receive the freedom to be whole, authentic, and eternally connected to the infinite that resides in all of us. And then, when you understand the truth, everything changes. Each and every moment of silence, reflection, and connection, this provides a good opportunity to reaffirm that the purpose of the strengthening of our faith in life and in one's own ability to improve. It is a silent revolution. A transformation begins from the inside to the outside, that it makes us realize that we are never alone. We are part of a universal consciousness where we are today, what drives us, and that, above all else, He loves us unconditionally. And, in the process, we have found that the biggest key to a fulfilling life that is precisely the latter's deep who we are, where we are, and all of the things that we can still make it, always with an open heart, and always with renewed hope. If you've come this far, it's because that's the message He spoke to you in some way. Few people have been able to maintain that connection until the very end, and if you're here it's because something inside of you resonated with this thought. He writes that it was for me. I want to thank you for sharing this moment with me. You've opened up your heart to this is a journey of self-discovery and hope. And, if that content is play to you, if you sign up for the channel so we can continue to walk together on this path of discovery and growth. Every video is an opportunity to strengthen that connection, and to get a better understanding of the strength that moves us from the inside out. And if this video brought a lot of learning, or a feeling, leave your like, because it will help to spread this message to more people who need to hear something like that. Your support makes all the difference in an exchange of energy and intention. Now, if you want to dig deeper in this conversation, there's a video right here on the side that is still exactly where we left off, expanding the story and introducing new perspectives. Click there and follow me, because the journey never ends. It just evolves into one discovery at a time. Stay with me, because in this story, in this connection, it is only the beginning of something bigger than themselves. This thought stayed with me until the very end, and I hope that you also have been to you. After all, this day is ours, as well, and each and every step carefully and hope to bring us to a place of greater peace and understanding. Until the next video, and remember, you are the biggest key is to always keep your heart open for what is to come, courage, gratitude, and unconditional love.